So we don't want to forget about staff, right? We did a lot in service request management for the user community, but we did a lot for staff in 8.0 as well. Number one, of course, is we've given you some kind of global search features there to find different requests that may be out there. We now are letting you just come in and search via the login IDs of somebody you might want to be looking up. So if I just need to go in and say, show me all of Mark's tickets, I can very easily do that. As well as we're now going to be exposing, in addition to the work detail, the categorizations and in the task, if you're using them in the particular ticket you're in, they're going to be searchable. And number two, they're going to be available on the typical screens you're used to working with, in addition to what's already there now. As we know, it's work detail, it's relationship, and date system. But adding categorization, adding task, as opposed to it being over on your left-hand side of your whatever console you happen to be in within that ticket, I think is a much more appropriate way to display that information, and I think it'll probably even get used a lot quicker by doing it through that particular effort. Notice that in your work detail, there's a couple of things that we've done here. One is we're kind of laying that out in more of a tabular format for you to know who the submitter of that particular detail was. So if you've got multiple, people working on issues at different times, you can capture that. If, in fact, there are some, for different entries here, if there are attachments, we go on and kind of tell you how many attachments are part of that particular work log entry. And again, that's on that same new tab that we talked about where you've got the new categorization and the task in addition to what you're used to seeing out there. Obviously, what the date and time stamp of the submit was that we had out there. So if you're looking at that same type of thing, this is an incident ticket, for example. I've kind of highlighted in red here where that shows up. And again, you're used to the work detail, the relationships, and the date system. But now we've added the categorization, we've added the task, and we've even added another additional detail tabs. And then to further enhance what they've done here, they've also added a couple of new things to make this even more enterprise. Here's my service that this particular incident is about here. A couple of things to note here. Note that if we have some of the other BMC automated tools like ProactiveNet, BPPM, if that is monitoring the infrastructure for this service out there, and I'm now opening up an issue about that, it will let me know what the health of it is, at least from the BPPM perspective, right here on the ticket. And so it just puts, if BPPM is installed, this icon will appear, and much like you're used to with your service level management, it'll be green, it'll be yellow, it'll be red, or it will be grayed out if not applicable to the service being launched there. Then the other thing, they've added one additional little button here up beside the service, and it's called Service Context, saying, we've always had the ability, as most of you 7604 users know, is right from here, I could click on the relationship icon, and it would explode out in our typical graphical view what are all the dependencies that support this particular service, and that's still available to you. But what we're now doing is saying, I also want to know everything going on about this particular service. So if you elect to hit that button, for example, so here's the red button you hit, it would come up and say, here's your related information about this particular service. There are 10 service and CIs making up this service. There are X number of work orders or changes or incidents, and I've got 7 days in my example here that's totally configurable as to how far back you want to look. And, if there are any outage records is the other things that apply in here. So if I were to further drill down now by hitting the little tab here, then what you would see is it says, well, here are your 10 CIs that are making up that service component, and you could see the information about them and obviously continue to drill down in that. So all from the single incident form that you're working with, I'm able now to see my task, I'm able to see my categorizations, I'm able to launch in context with the service and all the underlying support structures that make up that service are right from within the ticket itself. So that's a major new feature that's been added in this particular version. Of course, when you're doing service context, it's really going across discipline. I kind of showed you that if you have blade logic, it gets involved in it. Obviously, the other ITSM modules get involved in it, i.e. the changes and work orders that we showed on the other page. Talked about proactive net, as well as leveraging any emails that have gone back and forth. And as I mentioned on the prior slide, the time periods can be configured. The other thing that's now out of the box, now most of you users out there, you probably either yourself or through a professional services organization like RightStar, you probably had us configure a lot of the email conversation management within your Remedy thing, but it was something you had to do. It wasn't out of the box. Well, they've now corrected that in 8.0, and now out of the box you can both send and receive emails as it relates to tickets, so you can create incidents, you can update or add work info to a ticket, all from the email there, and that's just something that they finally decided to add as a out-of-the-box feature within your 8.0 implementation. So that would be another reason why people would want to move to this new technology here. And the great improvements were made in 7.604 or 7.6 actually, because we went to web-based reporting, and we all clapped our hands there to kind of get out of the crystal mode and all. And it made it very, very easy through just a little wizard to go in and create your own reports. Well, they've now kind of come full circle now, and now within the normal reporting, we can actually schedule and have those reports sent out automatically for us. Now, in 7.6, you did have that ability if you were using the analytics module, but of course not every staff person or even end user is going to necessarily be into that. These are more for the various module reporting services that are available in incident and change and asset and so forth, to have those internal reports, which are typically the ones done by staff. Getting a report for somebody are now the ones that can also be sent out via schedule, and of course can have it exported into whatever type of format would make sense for that particular user. A lot of buzz around the adoption of this process designer. As most of you probably know, this was a longtime Remedy partner, Abydos, who has had this, and many of you may have even used it. And it was an acquisition BMC made a few months back, and they've really embedded that into the systems now to work with 7.604 and of course 8.0 there. And what this is going to do is it's going to dramatically shorten the amount of time it takes to do custom workflows and service requests in Remedy. You can see here it's got a pretty nice palette of functional add a task, add a request, update a field, that you really just drag and drop and then put behind it what the actions are that you're trying to create. And as I said, the projections are, let's be more conservative, 70 to 90%, reduction in the amount of time that it takes to do that. So that's going to be good for the consulting services, as well as you, the end users, to be able to do that a little bit quicker. As I mentioned, drag and drop, no Remedy workflow coding required. You basically, with using this, with SRM, you're going to be able to get away from the advanced interface forms that a lot of us use to do some of the more complex things. This is just going to make this a lot easier. And using the new process designer, you basically can use it for the service request, but you can use it for change management. You can use it for incident and problems as far as how you might want to link things together there. And you really didn't have that ability other than writing, custom workflows or triggers before to do that. So this is a welcomed addition that I think most people have been looking for, and is also applicable to, release management and request tracking as well as you go through there. So a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz around this particular one. One of the other major topics that we set up front were the core new functionality is this new data model that you've got, where we're now going to be able to have a set of standard templates that's going to let us load data into the system using a kind of an open source Pentaho integration type engine to do this, where you can now do multi-threaded loads. It's you're going to be able to do scrubbing of the data where necessary. It's web based. It's going to have a consistent tool to be used across all of them. As you can see, it supports a variety of different data sources, Remedy files, spreadsheets, LDAP directories, the typical types of things that you would think about here. And so what happens is, once you employ that, the nice thing about it is BMC has built many of the templates of the things that we all face when we're trying to get a system up and running. So they've got templates out there for how you bring in people data, for how you bring in task templates, task categories that you've built, of how you bring in people into the system. All of those have kind of been pre-built as a template for you, and then it's just a matter of you coming to this particular page for doing very fast loads into it. Even if you have to come back, you found that one entry is mapped wrong, you really go back to the spreadsheet, correct the one entry, run your data load again, and you've got the information. So we feel like this, again, is going to be one of those things that will tend to speed up your implementations as you move into these new versions as we go through here. Then another feature that will not be applicable to everyone here in the audience today, probably, but is a new hub and spoke for using distributed environments. Meaning, if you are a customer that is either a service provider to other customers that you support, or you are a very large Remedy users that, for whatever reason, has to have multiple instances of Remedy out there across the globe or across wherever, you now can let those single instances be there, but you can have a single consolidated view of it on the hub, and obviously only certain people would have those type of viewing rights. So, the data in the individual location where that instance is running is protected and filtered and contained within that environment, and then only the people who would have a need to roll up the various sites, think about a service provider there, would be able to see that. So it's a new architecture that's kind of out there that's available. As I say, won't be something that every user would need out there. This doesn't replace multi-tenancy that some of you are probably aware of, where I've got a single instance of Remedy, but I can have different rules and workflows and all for my various entities or companies that are out there. This is where you have that. Take that to a further step where, because of law or regulations or security, I've got to have my own self-contained instance that are out there. So if you need more detail on that, we can certainly get that for you. And this is just one of the screens that you show here, how you, in the hubs and spokes search, there are obviously a bunch of search screens to bring up so you can filter into to what you need there. Another kind of major paradigm that's kind of a good thing is they've gone to a wiki-based documentation. So no longer do you have to have 27 different PDF files that you have to go to. If I'm up here in my wiki-based search here, it goes across. If I'm looking for something to do about task or whatever, well, there are tasks in incidents, there are tasks in change management, there are tasks in my work management systems. So now, from a single location, I can go across all of my different ITSM disciplines and drill down into what I want. And this is pretty fast. I've actually gone out and used this some. It works very, very well. Kind of something I think that was introduced by the acquisition of Tadway years ago, because they kind of use this type of documentation. And so if you're an ADDM user, you're probably used to this, but now it's across the whole ITSM suite here with 8.0.